Chapter 1. Shadows of the night. The black waves of the sea crashed against the hull of the small fishing boat bobbing in the darkness off Havana's harbor. It was a muggy night in July 1985, the air thick with salt and fear. Dimitri the Wolf Ivanov, a broad-shouldered Russian with a scar across his cheek that spoke of too many knife fights in Moscow's back alleys, stood at the helm. His heart pounded like a drum in his chest, each beat a reminder of what was at stake. Behind him, in the boat's hold, lay the cargo, 200 kilos of pure cocaine, packed in banana crates as a mockery of the communist regime. From Cuba, Fidel Castro's island, to the heart of the Soviet Union. A smuggling job that could make him rich or dead. "What the hell are we waiting for?" hissed Alex, his younger brother, his voice rough with sweat and tension. Alexei was the smart one, the one who had forged the connections with Cuban generals who despised the Kremlin's shadow over the Caribbean. But tonight he was just a trembling shadow, his fingers clenched around an AK-47. "Quiet, idiot," growled Dimitri. "KGB patrols swarm here like rats. One signal and we're mincemeat." He glanced out over the water. The lights of Havana's skyline twinkled like tempting sirens, but farther out, in the open sea, freedom or captivity awaited. Suddenly, a motor sound rumbled, low and menacing, approaching from the east. A Soviet patrol boat. Dimitri's hand slid down to the pistol in his belt. Sweat trickled down his back, and in his mind flashed memories. His father's execution in Stalin's time, his mother's starvation in Leningrad, and now this, the mafia's chance to strike back at the system that had choked them all. The boat slipped into the darkness, engines throttled to a whisper. The waves grew higher now, as if the sea itself protested. A shadow appeared on the radar, a patrol. "Hold your breath," whispered Dimitri. Alexei pressed himself to the deck, his heart a whirlwind of adrenaline. The shadows on the water danced, and for a moment it felt like the whole world held its breath with them. Would they be spotted? Would the KGB's tentacles reach out across the ocean and crush their dream of freedom and wealth? The tension was electric, the air charged with danger, and then, in a miracle of darkness, they slipped past. The boat vanished into the night, but the hunt had only just begun. Chapter 2. Alliances in the dark. 3 days later, somewhere in the Atlantic, where sky and sea merged into a gray haze, Dimitri and Alexei sat in the boat's cramped cabin. The cocaine was safe, for now, hidden under false floorboards that Alexei had built with his own hands. But the danger wasn't the sea, it was the people. The Soviet Union's mafia, the invisible web of thieves, smugglers, and corrupt officials, had woven this net. Dimitri thought of Big Bear, the boss in Leningrad, a man with eyes like ice and an appetite for risk that matched Dimitri's own. It was Bear who had sent them here, promising half the profits, $10 million on the black market. "We have to trust the Cubans," said Alexei, staring at a crumpled map. "General Ramirez promised fake papers, but if the KGB sniffs it out, they have spies everywhere, even in Castro's inner circle." Dimitri laughed dryly, but it was no laugh of joy. "Trust, in this game you trust no one. We fool them all, the KGB, the regime, even Bear if we have to." He stood, stretched, and felt the weight of the chain around his neck, a silver crucifix that reminded him of the Russian soul, the one that had survived czars and revolutions. Outside, thunder rumbled, and rain lashed the window like a warning. They spoke in low tones about the route, via the Black Sea, bribe a captain on a freighter in Odessa, and then into the Soviet interior by train to Moscow. But in every port, the KGB's eyes lurked, sharp as knives. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. A voice in Spanish coded, "El Lobo pasa, no hay sombras." The wolf passes, no shadows. The contact from Cuba, the smuggling was clear, but Dimitri's instincts screamed. It was too easy. He grabbed the microphone, replied with a code phrase laced with paranoia. When the radio fell silent again, he looked at Alexei. "We're not alone out here." The tension built, like a storm gathering strength. They knew the KGB already suspected something. A defector in Havana had whispered of Russian wolves in the Kremlin's archives. The alliances were fragile, and one wrong step could unravel everything. Chapter 3. The hunt awakens when they finally reached the churning waters of the Black Sea. After weeks of storms and hunger, the air felt heavier than ever. The boat had changed guise, now part of a rusty Soviet merchant fleet, loaded with bananas no one would question. But in Odessa, freedom didn't wait, traps did. Dimitri stepped ashore under the cover of night, meeting the contact, a fat customs official with a KGB pin on his coat. "The papers are ready," the man muttered, taking the envelope of dollars. But Dimitri's eye caught a shadow in the alley, a man in a trench coat, cigarette glow in the dark. "Run," Dimitri shouted to Alexei, who stood at the cargo ramp. Gunshots echoed through the harbor like fireworks in hell. They ran through mazes of containers, hearts pounding, lungs burning. The KGB had bitten. An agent, one of the feared grey wolves, had infiltrated the mafia's net. "They know about the cocaine," Alexei gasped as they dodged bullets whistling past. Dimitri fired back, hitting a shadow that crumpled. Blood smelled metallic in the air, mixed with diesel and sea. They stole a truck, gunned it onto the night highway. Behind them, sirens wailed, helicopters buzzed like hornets. "How the hell did they know?" roared Dimitri, knuckles white on the wheel. Alexei, pale as a ghost, pulled out a hidden file. "Ramirez, he sold us out. A KGB mole. Betrayal, the worst poison." The tension reached boiling point now, every curve a chance to crash, every stoplight an invitation to captivity. They bribed a railway worker to hide the cargo in a freight train, but Dimitri's mind raged. The mafia would punish Ramirez, but first they had to survive. The night was full of wild chases, and the KGB's net tightened. Chapter 4, The Price of Victory. The train rolled into Moscow's outskirts at dawn, a steel serpent through the frozen landscape. The cocaine was intact, hidden in a car full of sugar cubes. Dimitri and Alexei, exhausted but alive, slipped off at a siding. They had shaken the hunt, false trails, bribes, and sheer luck. The KGB's leads pointed to an empty warehouse in Kiev, while the real cargo slipped past under their noses. Fooled just as the mafia had planned, Bear waited in a rundown dacha outside the city, smoking a black cigar. "Your heroes," he grunted, clapping Dimitri on the shoulder. The money was divided. Half to the boss, the rest to the brothers, enough to buy freedom from the Soviet yoke. But victory tasted bitter. Alexei coughed blood that night. A bullet had grazed his lung in Odessa. "Worth it?" he whispered. Dimitri nodded, but a new fire burned in his eyes. They had tricked the KGB, smuggled the cocaine into the heart of the empire, and sown the seeds of the mafia's dominion. But the price? More bodies, more betrayals. Outside, snow fell, covering the tracks of their journey. The Soviet Union awoke to a new day, unaware of the wolves now hunting in its shadows. And Dimitri, he knew the next smuggling waited, bigger, more dangerous. The tension never died, it only grew. Epilogue. The snow fell silently over Moscow's streets, as if to bury the traces of the brothers' feet. The cocaine reached its destination, and the mafia's coffers swelled, but the victory was not without scars. Dimitri stared into the night, his cross glinting in the light of a lone lamp. Alexei, weakened but alive, slept fitfully at his side. They had outwitted the KGB, but at what cost? The empire creaked, but it was not yet stolen. The wolves had won a battle, but the war raged on. In the shadows, new plans whispered, new cargoes beckoned, and new dangers loomed. For in the heart of the Soviet Union, the fire of defiance never died, it only waited for the next spark.